Hey, what's going on everyone? It's Joe from Gadgetry Tech, and I'm really excited about this video because we're going to talk about the ASUS ROG Cetra Open Wireless. This is a very unique product, and with that uniqueness, we'll have some very strong pros and cons that will help uncover in this video to help you decide if this is the right product for you. Before I get any further, ASUS did send this to me for review. It was not paid for in any way. I don't do paid sponsored video content. And just to kind of further prove this, I'm also not going to be using any affiliate links in the description below. Just the standard take you to ASUS or wherever else it's being sold, at least at the launch. Maybe I'll add an Amazon generic one later, but I don't do this content for profit. So I just want to disclose where this came from, but it won't affect what I say about it. To save you time, I want to talk about this at a super high level, and this is called the Too Long Didn't Watch chapter because not everyone has, X amount of time to watch the whole video. So what makes this special is the fact that it's open. These do not have traditional tips that go in your ear and create a seal. And because of that, you don't get a lot of bass. In fact, the bass is definitely not the selling point of this guy if you're looking for that really impactful immersion type sound. They have the Cetra closed, or the insertable wireless earbuds that came out last year that have significantly more bass and more sound isolation, which is important if you travel. These are the complete opposite of that. Because they are so open, and perhaps one of my favorite things about it is the fact that they're open, you can be present and hear everything else in your surroundings, so it's so amazing to hear everything going on in your world and still being able to listen to music or games, whatever content you're consuming on a device like this. The built-in microphones are decent as well, so although this doesn't cater to the traditional gaming market in terms of the much better quality microphone that's right in front of your mouth, it's still passable, and for me, for general, laid back, chill gaming, this is a pretty awesome thing. As far as what's included in the box, it's rather straightforward. You get a case, and this is a larger case, so if you tend to put the case in your pocket when you're traveling around, it's gonna take up a little bit more room, and I'll show you the inside and why that's the case. USB-A to C cable, which is great. That's obviously for your charging duties because you can charge the case back here. And then this little neck strap, which I'll show you how to mount. And it's semi-reflective, so if you wear this at night and you're jogging and headlights hit you from behind, this is going to have a little bit of a line. It's not super reflective, but it does have some kind of a glowish effect to it. Then you open the case and reveal the earbuds themselves. Now, these guys are large. They are a unique design. Because there's no ear tip, it's basically a small speaker that's resting right above your ear canal, right in front of your ear canal. So I'll show you how these work in a moment and put them on, but also included is this USB-C transmitter. Now, the transmitter is great because it has an offset design. So if you're plugging this in to, let's say, an original PlayStation 5, you don't block the Type A port with a design like this. So you can still use that port for other things. And this also has a little bump out on the transmitter, so you can plug it into something like a handheld like this. This is the Xbox Ally X from ASUS ROG. And I bought this one. This is not like a sponsored plug or anything. I'm actually doing a huge handheld roundup video soon. I bought most of the common handhelds. I think only one was sent to me. So that was an expensive endeavor, but I really wanted to learn about these. So anyway, you can have a thick case like this. This is the kill switch from D brand, and the transmitter still plugs in just fine. And even if I go to the farthest left, I can still use the bumper quite easily. It gets right on the edge, and if that really bothers you, you can always flip it and go this way, and then that'll block the volume down port just a little, but I can still press it. So you have some flexibility, and you can see here that it exposes the other USB-C port, so you can still use the adjacent one. Now this guy, this USB-C input on the transmitter itself allows power pass-through. So let's say you're on the go and you connect this to a phone, you can charge your phone at the same time you're benefiting from the transmitter. As far as transmitter performance goes, so this is LC3+. It has a 24-bit 96 kilohertz resolution DAC connection that's connecting from this to the gaming buds themselves. And it has a decent range. I do something called the toilet test where I leave this plugged into a device and then I walk out of the room, see how far I can go. I get about 45 feet pretty consistently before the audio starts to break up. So not the highest range I've ever tested, but for a small USB transmitter like this, it's pretty common and very reasonable performance. Now, as far as the gaming buds themselves, this is a unique design, and I want to point out there is a little button right here on the top because you can have use the Gear software, which I'll show you in a moment, to change the functions of whatever you're connecting to. If you want to pause music, answer a call, change tracks, change the volume, etc. They look bulkier than they wear. And just to show you how simple this is, if you were to wear this, it just basically inserts just like that, and then you would put it behind your neck and put it on. So I'm not going to do both right now because I traditionally don't use this neck strap because they've actually been quite stable without it. And as large as they are on the bulkier side, they still kind of blend into my ear pretty well. I don't think they stick out too much, so I think they look pretty decent. And if you don't like RGB, you can easily turn that off with the Gear software. And the Gear software works on a mobile app. You can install it on your computer, or you can use the web app, which gives you similar functionality. There's a couple unique things to each side, but most of the basics that are there as far as adjustments go. It's important to call out a couple specs because this is a gaming bud, but it doesn't go in my ear. It's not creating a seal. So you can't expect a lot of bass. The closed-back Cetra that came out last year has significantly more bass, as does pretty much all of their other gaming audio products from ASUS and many other brands. Instead, this is using a 14.2 millimeter dynamic driver. It's DLC coated or diamond-like carbon coated to help with rigidity on the driver, because this is a small driver being asked to do a lot. Because there's no seal, you don't have that bass boost by having that. So you're not going to get a lot of sub bass. The roll off below 100 Hertz is quite extreme. Definitely a mid bass sounding product in terms of overall impact. But this dynamic driver, it's larger than most gaming buds. Like a lot of gaming earbuds from other brands are like 6 to 12 millimeters. Most of them are 10 or smaller. So even though this is the largest driver that I've used on a gaming bud, because there's no tip, it still has the least amount of bass. It's just a very open, natural sounding projection of, you know, your audio that you're listening to. I wanted to specifically call out the audio performance at a high level first, because what makes it poor in the sub bass department is a byproduct of what makes it amazing from a lifestyle department. And because I'm a stay-at-home dad, you know, like I work from home for my day job and obviously the YouTube channel, I'm married with kids. And having something that allows me to hear the ambient stuff around me and not block any of it out is great. There are wireless products out there that have like mic pass-through. Sony's InZone H9 II that I'm reviewing soon has a really good ambient system. Still larger ear cups, it's a very different product, but most products don't have that level of ambient support, so there's some form of occlusion happening. And you just don't hear, you know, your world, your soundscape as naturally as you would if you weren't wearing any product. This particular thing is the closest thing to not wearing any audio product whatsoever, while still giving you a respectable enough sound quality for, you know, enjoying a casual pickup game. So this came in handy a lot with these guys. This is like my favorite thing in the world for portable gaming. I have the PS Portal. I have this, I have, you know, a bunch of other handhelds. I've used my phone with this. I've plugged this into my laptop or my iPad at night if I'm working on some content. But the best part is if I'm not chasing like the audiophile sound, I just want to hear a game. Like if I'm playing Hades 2, it doesn't need to sound incredible. This still sounds passable, but now I can wear this all night, hear everything that's going on in my house, and kind of have the best of both worlds. And because I live in the Southwest, it is hot as hell lately. We kind of got a heat wave, and being able to have something this light and open means zero ear sweat. I have no fatigue because nothing is going in my ear canal, nothing on the top of my head, and no pads going over my ears. So for long extended comfort, this is like pretty much impossible to beat. There's really nothing that's this light and wireless and convenient that gives you that kind of gaming performance that you'd want, because the microphones are actually quite usable as well. And this is what my voice sounds like using the Cetra open wireless gaming buds connected directly to my Mac using the included transmitter. The reason why I want to call this out is because the transmitter allows you to use the microphone and hear your game audio, the media that you're consuming, exactly as you would if the microphones were not active. A lot of Bluetooth products, most of them, when you enable the microphone and you now have a two-way data stream, this is going to change to a different sound profile called HFP, or hands-free profile. It makes the game sound horrible. And I've had this on a few other products lately where you can't really use the Bluetooth for gaming if you're planning on using the mics for Discord or something like that. So although this microphone isn't like game-changing, it is a tiny mic inside an earbud. The fact that the audio is in real time, I have no delay with this transmitter, it's super fast, and I can consume all the game content without worrying about if I have to use the mic or not. So this is a pretty good performance in that regard. So while I have the computer out, let's talk about sound quality and start the objective audio first, which takes my measurements. And in this case, I'm using the Gross KB006X Pinaclone. It's not the real Gross. And I have a Brulink here 5128 on order, which is like the top of the line as far as measurement equipment goes. But FedEx lost it originally and finally found it. So fingers crossed it shows up next week in one piece. So you don't have to know what any of that means. I'm just disclosing that because I believe in being as open as possible. And this is where it's going to rattle or create some question marks or hesitations. And that's the measured frequency response, because you have a little bit of a bass lift, like 100 to 200 hertz, kind of a thumpy mid-bass warm sensation, recessed mids, typical gaming sound profile, and pretty bright highs. Now, this is a very unique sounding product. And this particular rig amplifies the 8 kilohertz area as it is. I can tell you on my ears, this peak is nowhere near as bright as that. So this is why you can't trust measurements exclusively, because these ears simulate a type of hearing, and it doesn't mean that your ears are the same way. Our ears and ear canals are like snowflakes. So you can take that for what you will, but this does give you a general idea of what it sounds like. The most important thing to call out is the lack of sub bass. I mentioned this a couple times earlier because I really don't want to hide this from you. This is not a bassy product. There is a switch on the Gear software called Phantom Bass, which does boost it quite a bit. And this is with Phantom Bass on, because frankly, with it off, it has more of like the walkie-talkie speakerphone sound effect. It's not as pleasant. I really think it needs the Phantom Bass on to be more enjoyable. But nevertheless, when it's on and in default sound profile as it comes out of the box, this is what it sounds like. Now, ASUS has a software called GearLink, which there's a mobile app for your device if you're connecting with Bluetooth, and you can also use the web app just by going to gearlink.asus.com. So once this transmitter is connected and you go to that website, there's a little button on the left that says connect. So we're going to click that. We're going to get a pop-up here to select the Cetra Open Wireless. Then I'm going to click connect, and there it is, successfully connected. And here we go with my battery life, settings, lighting, etc. Now this is my sound profile of choice. So spoiler alert, I just wanted to instantly show you this software because we just talked about sound. If you notice, I reduced the sub bass in the 64 hertz area of bass more. So everything below 100 hertz, I actually rolled off a little bit extra. That's just because you're not really hearing it anyway. And although this is quite loud, it doesn't have a lot of bass at high volumes. You will hear distortion and clipping if you push this and expect a lot of bass at high volumes. So what I did was I actually rolled it down further to give me more power handling. And because Phantom Bass is enabled, it still has a little bit more of immersive effect, but I get a power handling that gives me a comfortable volume window. Play with this to your own personal preferences, because depending on what you're consuming for content and how loud you listen to it, you might like it to sound a different way. I do want to call out on my own custom EQ. I did boost 2000 hertz a little bit because it is noticeably recessed there. I lifted 4K just slightly. I reduced 8K because even though the peak wasn't as strong as what's shown on it, there were a couple times where it's a little bit peaky. So I just cut it down by a few decibels, and 16,000 hertz I lifted because there is a little bit of roll off with this guy there as well. So this doesn't really change the all-around sound signature of this. It's kind of more of a one-dimensional sound. Because this is a proximity effect speaker, it's not creating a seal, it's not really directly mounting to your head. You get a very similar open air type sound, I guess. So just without getting into the science of it, that's basically what to expect. Again, don't get this with the thought that you're going to have really deep, strong sub bass, or that you can EQ that back in. There are different profiles you can pick here, and then up top you have different sound profiles. It came in communication profile by default, which sounded a little bit harsh to me. That's why I transitioned to the flat one. When we go into settings, you can see this is where we can adjust the button behavior. And I didn't really feel the need to change this too much because a lot of the devices I just use the host to adjust the volume. The odd thing is you have to press the volume 4 times, or the button 4 times, to increase the volume of a step, and press this 4 times to decrease it a step. So I wasn't a huge fan of that. You can customize things. Obviously there's this drop down here, and even when it goes into these top functions, the holding function, which is what I've used for adjustment of volume before, will put this in pairing mode. If I go to advanced functions, basically it's just if you want sound, like a beep if you're connected or disconnected, or if you want to actually hear a voice. I turned off the voice prompts because when I put the transmitter on my iPad, even though I was just consuming content with Bluetooth, the transmitter would wake and sleep from time to time thanks to Apple's power management, and you would hear like connected, disconnected several times, and it drove me crazy. So I switched to the beep. The beep can get annoying after a while too, so if that's really bothering you, just pull out the transmitter. Now, ASUS advertised up to 16 hours of battery life on one charge without even needing the case. The case gives you an immense amount of extra battery life, so you can basically go for multiple days straight on one charge and not really have much of an issue, at least without having to top this off again. But if you turn off and disable the microphone, if you're using Bluetooth instead of the transmitter, and if you're turning off the RGB entirely, that's how you're getting those numbers. If you use any combination of this other tech, such as RGB, the mic, and the dongle, you're going to get anywhere from 6 to 9 hours of battery life, at least from my results of what I've messed around with. So the case is going to add 3 to 4 more full charges on one case charge, if you will. So it's pretty respectable battery life. Obviously, having these big capsules in the back house a better battery system and the antenna. I don't really have a care too much for the batteries being that long, just because I'm never gaming for more than that many hours straight, and I would just put it in the case when I'm done. So the next time I'm gaming, I'm good to go anyway. This is just showing me power management, and if you want it to start blinking at a certain level, you can have it warn you, including the idle mode, which is when it would go to sleep. So if it's not connected to anything, you can have it turn itself off. Hybrid multi-point. So this is not simultaneous Bluetooth. It is a multi-hop system. So you can connect to 2 mobile devices or Bluetooth devices at once, or one Bluetooth device plus this transmitter. It will be connected to both simultaneously, but it will only stream the audio of one device or the other. One thing to point out, so if you are playing music on the transmitter, then you immediately start playing content on your mobile device, it won't drop the transmitter to then play content on your mobile device. You have to stop what the transmitter is doing before it starts automatically playing the audio from your mobile device. At least that's how it behaved with me. However, I was gaming on this and I received a phone call, and the phone call does still kick over these gaming buds to the phone to take the call. I pressed the button to answer it. I was able to make a call, no problem. And once the call ended, because I wasn't playing anything on my phone, within about 5 seconds, it switched back to the transmitter, which let me resume hearing the game audio. So leaving the app and getting back to the sound quality side, I think I've painted this picture quite clearly, but I'm just gonna tell you now, it is not, I was hoping it would sound a little bit better, only because if you push it at higher volumes and expect any kind of bass, it does kind of distort. I'm not a person who likes to play things at super loud volumes. I want to take care of my hearing. So for me, in most use cases I would use this for, I want an open device like this because I want to hear my surroundings. And if I'm playing this at an extremely loud volume, well, I can't really hear my surroundings anyway. So it really comes down to your use cases. If you're just using it for casual gaming, I still think this is going to hit a niche market so well that I wish I've had this like for the last 10 years, because being present in the real world by still wanting to consume some of your own content in privacy at a moderate volume is just fantastic. So in terms of gaming performance, look, at a subjective level, I didn't get the immersion I get with the Cathara or their other less expensive gaming headsets. But for the handheld side of things and for just casual gaming, I could still play, games like Arc Raiders. It's not a super competitive thing for Call of Duty, for example. If you're trying to push that higher detail retrieval or Battlefield, I would use a wired product for that, or a different wireless that gives you the sound isolation, at least as a side bonus. However, it does have a pretty good mid-range natural presentation. In terms of what I expect the game to sound like, at moderate volumes, it's true to sound. It's not overly coloring it in any way. It just doesn't have that sub-bass explosion and rumble that some people might be craving. So I just really want to temper your expectations on the sound quality. I would be excited about this more from what it allows you to do from a lifestyle thing more than it does purely on sound. One positive I do want to call out though on the sound quality side is because these don't have a little, nozzle that's going in your ear and it's playing the sound outside of your ear canal, it doesn't sound as congested or closed off. It's kind of a similar difference that you get when you go from a closed back headphone to a larger open back headphone, where everything just sounds wider and more expansive. So this doesn't have like the deep impact that some people might look for. It really does present a much wider sound profile and stage, so it doesn't sound as claustrophobic, And that to an extent can still help a lot with immersion. So it is quite a fun listen. It's just a very different listening experience than I think a lot of people are expecting. As far as a couple little things I experienced from heavy use of this, because I've used them for a few weeks now, I did disable the RGB because if I use these at night, sometimes I tend to not sleep much and my wife falls asleep much sooner. So I didn't like the idea of brighter RGB lights right next to her in bed. So I turned them off. But again, the whole idea of being open, if she woke up, I could actually hear her say something to me. However, after a bit, once in a while, one of the RGB sides, I forgot which side it was, one of them just turned back on. It was low, but it was illuminated again. So I had to go in the mobile app. I just enabled and disabled RGB, and that fixed the problem. The other thing is it has this immersive mode where you can actually kind of pseudo create an active noise cancellation system. It's really just tampering some of the mid-range noise that you hear around you. It's super slight, it's not super effective, but it did introduce white noise quite a bit, and I'm not a fan of that. And the other thing is when audio is active on this at the lowest possible volume setting, the white noise is audible. So if you're sensitive to that, it's not a perfectly silent noise floor. Again, for my casual stuff, it didn't bother me too much, but I did want to point that out. These get insanely loud. Like if you just want volume and you are okay with sacrificing a lot of bass, the volume overhead these have are quite extensive because the loudest I would ever listen to these is about halfway. So it's a lot louder than I expected, but again, with significantly reduced bass. And that wraps everything up and gets me to the end here. So I think I've repeated myself several times. I still love these because I've wanted something that I could just wear for hours at a time comfortably. It's like set and forget, disappear. I can go about my day, but then I can listen to something at a fairly reasonable volume and still hear my surroundings. So to me, it's just amazing there, and it worked perfectly for that. I didn't have any issues for what I think the intended use case is. So if you're looking for something that gives you that flexibility, they did execute really well here, and I'm pleased to see the battery life, the comfort's fantastic, and being able to use the microphone without having crappy sound quality is huge. So the only thing I would just warn you of is don't expect a $230 sound profile. Buy the ASUS Delta or the Cathara if you want a better sound quality profile on a gaming side. This is just super unique and it does it really well. With that being said, thank you so much for watching this and making it to the end. Don't forget to like and subscribe so I can see you at the next one. Stay safe and I'll see you next time. Bye.